Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yaoyu from Xiamen University, China. Today, it's my pleasure to be here with you virtually to present to the International Conference on Education in Post-Pandemic. The title of my presentation is No Child is Left Behind Children, and Dropout Rates in China. My presentation is divided into 4 parts. Introduction, research questions, main findings, discussion, and conclusion. First, I will introduce to you some background of my research. Left behind children are children under the age of 16 who stay in rural areas while their parent or parents depart to work in cities. Accordingly, left behind experience refer to the experiences of separating from their parents under the age of 16 because one or both of their parents have migrated to work. In China, due to the limitation of household registration system, migration is the main cause of children being left behind. Other causes like divorce and non-marital fertility are relatively less common. This is the beginning of the story for left behind children. In China, every citizen is required by the law to complete 9 years of compulsory education. Though recent years have witnessed a great improvement in the retention rate of compulsory education, it remains notable that there is a rural-urban gap. Then, what motivates me to conduct this research? First is the vast scale of migration all over the world and large number of left behind children in China. According to the UNICEF 2018 annual report, 69 million children in China are left behind in rural areas. Besides, according to the World Migration Report 2020, there are 281 million international migrants, and many immigrants cannot enjoy equal access to the public services as local residents. The problem of left behind children is not uncommon all over the world. Second is the puzzle of migration and education in China. In China, parents usually migrate to provide a better life for their children. However, it turns out that the improvement of living conditions, financial conditions, cannot be transformed into educational successes for their children. Third, according to existing literature, they have studied important questions related to Chinese left behind children, including their physical and mental well-being and education attainment. However, it remains controversial about whether the left behind experiences have negative or positive effects on children's education outcomes. Therefore, it is important to investigate the consequences of left behind experiences on the accumulation of human capital, taking China as a prime example. Now, let's move on to the research questions. I have put forward 2 questions. First, have left behind experiences hindered children from enjoying education successes? And second, whether the left behind patterns, education expectations, or education expenditures affect the dropout choices of left behind children. To answer these 2 questions, I employed data from the Chinese Family Panel Studies. In short, CFPS. The CFPS is a national and comprehensive social survey project in China. This survey started in 2010 and is conducted every 2 years, consisting of around 60,000 households each wave. This paper uses the available CFPS 2010 to 2018, forming a 5-period panel data. Our main variables of interest are index of whether dropping out, education expectations, index of being left behind children, and other. We have also included control variables, including to account for school, family, and individual effects on education. The school controls include whether a child is studying in key schools and boarding schools. The family controls include family size, average family income, total assets, father's ages, father's education years, father's marital status, mother's education status, number of children at home, and number of boys at home. They have also included age, gender, minority groups, and hukou status as individual controls. Seeing this table shows the descriptive statistics. There are in total 27,421 respondents, and 34.7% of them are left behind children. The average probability of dropping out for left behind children is 6%, which is 1.6% higher than their non-left behind counterparts. The average education expectations of left behind children is 5.621 years, also lower than that of non-left behind children. Similarly, the average education expenditure for left behind children, which is measured in log term, are also lower than that of non-left behind respondents in the survey. So do average family income and total assets. However, the average family size and number of boys at home for left behind children are relatively higher. To answer the first research question, whether left behind experience impact the dropout choices of left behind children, we have employed a fixed effect model to control for the year fixed effect, time invariant effect, and district invariant effects. Results are shown in Table 2. Overall, there is a strong positive correlation between children's left behind experience and their probability of dropping out of school, with both province and year fixed effect controlled. If a child is a left behind child whose parents have divorced, has an aged father, and more than one brother at home, then his or her probability of dropping out of school will significantly increase. Contrarily, studying in a key school or in a boarding school, having well-educated fathers or mothers and more family assets would significantly decrease the probability for a child to drop out of school. Further, to isolate the effects of being left behind on dropping out, we introduce a time-varying difference in difference model. The treatment group are children who become a left behind one during the 5 waves of the survey. As could be seen from Table 3, on average, once being left behind during the 5 waves of the survey increases the probability for children to drop out of school by 2.1% at the significance level of 1%. This estimate is larger than what we have seen in Table 2, with both fixed effects which is year fixed effect and province fixed effect controlled. It confirms that the negative effect of left behind experiences outweighs its income effect, and the effect is persisting. Graph 1 shows the justification for the parallel trend assumption. As could be seen from the graph, the coefficients of periods before treatment are all zero at the 95% significance level, while the coefficients of periods after treatment are all significantly greater than zero at the significance level of 95%. It also convinces the positive treatment effect of left behind experiences on dropout choices. As for the robustness check, I have run regression for a propensity score matching difference in difference model. We match each treatment with a control group based on its calculated weight to control for the possible observable bias. The results are shown in this table, and we could see that the results are also consistent with our previous main results, that left behind experiences would significantly increase the probability for a child to drop out of school. Now we move on to the second question. Whether left behind patterns, education expectations, and education expenditure would affect the dropout choices of left behind children? To answer this question, I conduct the mediation effect analysis to investigate how left behind experiences affect education expectations and education expenditure. We can see that in column 3, actually, if we controlled province fixed effects and year fixed effects, the differences in terms of education expectation become insignificant among left behind children and non-left behind children. However, as for column 6, we can see that left behind children are still disadvantaged in education by their left behind experiences, because with time, left behind children's education expenditure has been significantly reduced by 50.4%. Parents of these children migrate for a greater life, but it has not increased their children's education expenditure and their probability of education successes. It is also notable that the coefficients of our index of children holding a rural hukou become significant after including the time fixed effects. Then we follow Barron and Kenny steps to establish our mid-data analysis. Students are divided into primary school aged students, which are aging from 6 to 12, and middle school aged children, which is who is aging from 13 to 16. Results are shown in this table. We can see that according to column 1 and column 2, education expectation does partially mediate between left behind experiences and the probability of dropping out of school for middle school students. Similarly, I found evidences for the mediation for primary school students. However, different from the middle school students, actually, we found that left behind experiences are negatively correlated with the probability of dropping out of school for primary school students. Migrant parents could provide primary school students with more financial support for them to go to school. Nevertheless, left behind children studying in secondary high school tend to have lower education expectations and more likely to drop out of school. And this study also found evidence for the long-term effect of left-behind experiences on children. This table shows that left-behind children in middle school have significantly higher education expenditure, which has partially helped to alleviate the negative effects of left-behind experiences on their education outcomes. However, for primary school students, there's no significant relationship between their left-behind experiences and the probability of dropping out. We conjecture that if we put primary school-aged left-behind children in the same family conditions and school environments as their counterparts, their probability of dropping out would not be significantly different from their peers. Early intervention to support left-behind children would have long-term positive effects on their education outcomes. To further identify the mechanisms, we conduct the heterogeneity analysis and we run the regressions on different age groups again. This table shows the results. After controlling for both province and year fixed effects, you can see that the effects become insignificant for left-behind children in primary school, each with the coefficient of only negative 0.001, not statistically significant, nor not in magnitude. Nevertheless, as shown in column 6, left-behind children in middle school have a significantly higher probability to drop out. Besides, we run the regression on children with different left-behind parents who are left behind only by mother or who are left behind only by father. Column 1 and column 2 shows the results with dropout as the dependent variable. The magnitude of the effects of being left behind only by mother is 0.015, which is slightly larger than the effects of being left behind only by father. But this one is more significant statistically. Besides, children being left behind only by their mother on average have statistically lower education expectations, while they have no significant difference in terms of education expenditure. Less parental care, more time invented on household chores, and wishes to share the family financial burden instead of getting further education could help explain the high dropout probabilities when left behind only by mothers. As for children left behind only by their fathers, the average education expenditure is 6.3 significantly lower, 7.6% significantly lower. Income earned by their fathers have not transformed into higher investment in education. In conclusion, this exam examines whether and to what extent left-behind experiences disadvantage children. Constituting more than a fifth of the Chinese children, left-behind children are still hindered from enjoying the same educational successes as their city counterparts. Although China has made great progress in educational reforms, more actions should be taken besides financing. The first contribution of this paper is to provide further evidence about the unintended cost of migration, including the negative effects of left-behind experience on children's education outcomes, education expectations, and education expenditure. We found that being left behind would significantly increase children's probability of dropping out of school by 2.1%. Besides, the negative effects are shown to be long-standing. Growing older, the positive link between left-behind experience and the probability of dropping out of school become even more significant. Second, we tried to provide insights into how left-behind experiences result in dropout choices. We found that left-behind children tend to have lower education expectations and education expenditures, and thus a higher probability of dropping out of school. Contrary to common belief, though, we found that children actually have no significantly differences in terms of education expectations when they are in primary school. One conjecture is that dropping out is not entirely an active choice, but somehow a passive response due to the limitations of many other social, maybe policies or other social circumstances. Our results also support that a higher input in early education could help alleviate the negative effect of left-behind experiences on children's education outcomes. A third contribution of this research is to further demonstrate the importance of fathers in children's education. Parents are not only sources of financial support for children, they are also important sources of family education and emotional support. Admittedly, mother and father may have different effects on children's education. Nevertheless, the results of this research support that the attitudes and deeds of fathers might have a more significant effects on their children. This result is also consistent with findings of past researches that fathers' active engagement is important for children's development. So, what could be done to address the problem of left-behind children? This research has tried to provide some potential advices. First, there needs to be greater investment in rural education to ensure that left-behind children have access to quality education. This could involve providing better resources and facilities in rural schools, as well as investing in teacher training and development. Secondly, efforts need to be made to address the social and emotional needs of left-behind children. Early intervention is essential because left-behind experiences have a long-term effect on children. Besides, parents who are working in urban areas need to be encouraged and supported to take a more active role in their children's education, even if they may not be able to physically present. Third, teachers and communities could also play their parts in connecting children being left behind in rural areas with their parents working away from home. This could involve providing maybe counseling and support services to help these children cope with the challenges they face. To sum up, left-behind experiences and dropout rates are major challenges facing China's rural education system. While there's no easy solution to this issue, greater investment in rural education, support for left-behind children, and efforts to engage parents are all steps that could be taken to address this issue and ensure that all children in China have access to quality education. Thanks for listening, and welcome to any questions or suggestions.